Cat. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for those who have joined up, and we're recording as you just said, so hopefully everyone's comfortable with that, and we'll send it out to share with other people who might have questions that we come up with on this call. We're here today to introduce Alec and Frida from Sperax, and they are leading this lifted grant that is going to be running every quarter. It's a new grant, and it would be great if we had hi Mara, welcome to joining us. It'd be great to have the opportunity, I thought, to meet the team, to find out who they are, what they're about, the purpose of the grant, what their intentions are behind it. And then for anyone who either wishes to be a volunteer in terms of being a mentor for the people who win the grants, or would like to be a judge in terms of deciding who do they think should be a judge, and of course to be able to apply for the grant, and whether it's this grant or one of the other grants that are running throughout the quarters. That's what we're here to do. So I'm going to hand over to Alec to introduce yourself first, and then you hand over to Frida, and then we can sort of learn more about the background.
Yeah, Frida, if you would actually be willing to introduce yourself and a little bit about the company first, I think we could start there, and then I can give a little bit of a rundown of the best ways to engage with Lifted specifically.
Perfect.
No problem. I'm ready to start. So Sperax, S-P-E-R-A-X, is a US-based blockchain company. We used to be solely focused on infrastructure, so the layer 1 consensus protocol. And right now we're building our own stablecoin on top of it. So our stablecoin is the first and only hybrid stablecoin in the market. By hybrid, I mean it is an algorithmic and crypto collateralized stablecoin. I hope that is not too much jargons here, but I would like to elaborate more on that. Is our stablecoin is called USDS, and most current existing stablecoins suffer from volatility risk, excessive pre-mine, capital inefficiency, limited scalability. USDS is capable of resolving all this issue by offering this hybrid solution that is both algorithmic and crypto collateralized. So it is highly scalable, trustless, and decentralized stablecoin that operates fully on chain. So the key objective, just like all other stablecoins, is to enable our users to be able to exchange one USDS for one USD worth of crypto under all market conditions. And USDS is stabilized explicitly by external cryptocurrencies, and initially it will be a basket of major stablecoins in order to avoid unnecessary volatility. And implicitly, USDS is stabilized by having our protocol act as a market maker using our governance token called SPA. And this exact composition will be determined via an on-chain algorithmic. And like I just said, initially we will rely mostly on external collateral, but as our governance token SPA matures, which means a reduction in slippage and volatility, we'll rely more on algorithmic stabilization. And this entire design will lead to price stability by incentivizing arbitrageurs to create an elastic supply of USDS that matches changes in demand. So based on my description, USDS cater to extremely wide audience that initially it would be catered to people very crypto native, who are very well immersed in a DeFi field, who are comfortable with being arbitrageurs using our stablecoin USDS. But eventually we would like to empower those who are, more vulnerable to the current existing banks and all centralized institutions by providing this wealth preservation feature. So almost like a bank feature. So that is the use cases of our stablecoin USDS. And a little introduction of myself. My name is Frida. I'm partner of global strategy at Sperax, and I'm a graduate from Columbia Journalism School, major in data journalism. And the reason I got into blockchain is in late 2018, I was working in Kenya doing some animal preservation work. And while living there, I witnessed a lot of migrant workers who later became my friends. They work for international huge corporations, but they themselves had to sacrifice 5 to 10 transfer fee to banks like Western Union when they send a remittance to their families back in other countries. And that's a substantial amount of money that is totally unnecessary to people who work so hard, who cannot afford real food or who cannot buy new clothes, even though there are holes in their t-shirts and all. So I I just realized how much privilege like people like us are taking for granted compared to the other population who in much more urgent need of an elevated financial well-being. And that is when I figure, okay, I used to be a storyteller. I'm done with that. I want to be the changer this time. And that is how this very abstract idea of decentralized finance came into my mind. But obviously, I don't have a technical background. And fortunately, through a common friend, I met my partner of tech coordination, Joe, who designed our consensus protocol. And later, this is exactly how this project started. So we believe in DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, and that is why in Sperax, everybody is a partner. We just are not fans of the title of co-founder or chief executive officer, that kind of like that. In Sperax, everything's a project based. So Alec is basically the leader of the Lifted Grant series. So he will lead other teammates on this front. That is a little background about myself. And one last note is how I designed this grant series in the first place is that, as we all know, the blockchain space, no offense to Alec, but it's pretty white male dominated. So Clubhouse is on the rise right now. I'm not sure if any of you are quite active on Clubhouse, and not just Clubhouse, all other existing or the past online conferences, webinars. I feel very frustrated just watching all of these conversations held mostly by men, while we have, as women, have so many interesting, intriguing, groundbreaking opinions could be shared with the wide public. But for some reason, we are just not encouraged to share our own insights or our own work. And obviously, there's a gender divide in the space where there are a significantly lack of female developers and also researchers. So that is when I decided that I would like to empower women in the blockchain space, no matter if you're interested in web design for blockchain companies or you are very dedicated in token economics research. Anybody who's intrigued by decentralized financial technology, not just finance technology, anything that is related to decentralization, are welcome to apply for this grant. And it is totally up to your liberty to accept your grants in a format of fiat currency or the tokens of our co-hosts or general partners or USDT or our own tokens. It's totally up to you. And Sperax does not hold any grant money. It will be totally issued by our partners. So no money comes to us. It goes directly from our partners to the grantees. Unless we, due to some unfortunate stance, could not lock a co-host for a certain phase, then we will be the issuer of the grant money. So just would like to clarify on that front. Yeah, that is all. A little bit background intro is that Lifted is a year-long grant. We have 4 phases. Each phase run in a quarter, and each quarter has a theme. So the first theme is gaming, is the overlap between video gaming and NFTs. So it's more about DeFi in general, but since we just locked our co-host partnership with Polyan Capital, which focuses on video gaming, we figured that the rising hot topic NFT could be a perfect match to fit in this DeFi theme for this quarter. And the upcoming quarter will be blockchain economics research, blockchain university, and the last one will be interoperability. And we're in active talk with Oasis protocol. I'm not sure if people in this room are familiar with Oasis. Oasis focuses on data privacy, and very interesting enough, is led by a woman, an East Asian woman as well. Her name is Down Sohn, and she is a professor at she's a professor at Berkeley University. And it will be really exciting to partner with Oasis to kick off the second phase of Lifted grants. And that is so far the some updates on our end. Yeah, Alec.
Yeah, so we'll leave plenty of time for questions and answers. So please, any ideas that you have or thoughts, write them down and we'll get to them shortly. So thanks, Frida, for giving that overview. I'll start with a background on myself. So my name is Alex Shaw. I graduated from Marquette University in December of 2018. I've been extremely passionate about finding new ways to structure the financial infrastructure, the global financial infrastructure that is, not just for people that look like me and that live in America. So as my time as an undergraduate, I was tasked with studying an emerging market. I chose blockchain. I just went down that rabbit hole and thought, this is the technology that can actually enable this censorship resistant, this accessible financial system that a lot of these bankers advertise, but doesn't actually exist in practice. So when I graduated, I actually worked at the university where I was running various research initiatives where we would partner with enterprise clients and we would do research projects to learn different ways in which their organization or their, if they're a bank, it would be their company, or a manufacturer would be their company, how they could leverage the technology and better understand the business value of it. So I've been working in the space. I've been very much so working on a technical side of things, figuring out how do you actually build these systems in such a way that they deliver business value. So I'm personally interested in helping people bring ideas to market. And that's really where I think the Lifted grant can assist everyone. But after I graduated, I was working in the DeFi space. I built a product in the decentralized finance and wealth preservation space. And then when I met the founders at Sperax, the relationship seemed perfect to continue my research and continue my work, but in partnership with the tremendous economic and technical resources that Sperax has available, not to mention just their well-connected stance in the space. So that's how I ended up on the Sperax team, and just running a blockchain research lab at the university at Marquette. I experienced firsthand just not having much interest from people that just weren't very much so aggressive risk takers. And what I tried to do was really make this a welcoming and collaborative environment at that university. And with that ethos in mind, I was super excited to tackle this Lifted campaign. So as Frida mentioned, it's a year-long campaign with 4 different phases, and I can give you a little bit of a breakdown about what's going on with phase 1, considering that's what is currently available for applications. And phase 1, as Frida mentioned, we have an exceptional co-host called Polyant Gaming, and they also have a venture capital arm. So anyone that is excited about building and establishing relationships with venture capitalists or getting that type of mentorship, this would be a very compelling phase for you. And so this first phase is going to be targeted on gaming, non-fungible tokens, and that kind of arena. And I just want to be very clear that we would absolutely love a application that might be an educational initiative, educating local engineers on what an NFT is. Maybe we could help finance educational content pertaining to NFTs. It doesn't actually have to be a technical build. It does not have to be a NFT and DeFi technical proposal. It just has to be in that realm of NFTs, gaming, and all of that stuff. So we also have some exciting judges and mentors for this first phase. So I'll get into it if you are interested in volunteering, but let's just consider it from an applicant perspective first. We have a couple judges and mentors. So Bridget has kindly volunteered some time and said that she would assist in that process. We also have Lenka Hudakova from the MakerDAO Foundation. So she is going to be mentoring on the idea of how to build a community, how to establish, just an engaged community, as that's obviously extremely critical to seeing any of these products get to market. We also have a enterprise representation. So if you're interested in building something for the enterprise space, we have representation from Marcy Bomberg, which is a Fortune 50 enterprise. And something clear, for example, Whipfully, their interest is, Marcy's interest is personal. It's not from a business strategy. She's not looking to acquire IP or to invest in these businesses. She's personally interested in allocating time. And then we have Frida, who's going to be the representation from Sperax. And yeah, so that's going on. That's who the phase 1 mentors are. And then we also have an update on applications. So we have 28 applications thus far. Applications are open until March 16th. So roughly 3 weeks or so from today. And so we have 28, there's probably 10 or 15 of those that are serious. We have a couple applications that were just basically asking for money and saying, I really want some money. So obviously they're not going to be considered. But we actually welcome, if anyone's curious about ways to better increase their opportunity or chances of winning the grant, please reach out and we can schedule one-on-ones to help, I guess, tailor the application and make you guys feel much more comfortable in your odds of winning. And we can ensure that your application is aligned with what we want to see and what the partners want to see. And we're very excited to do those one-on-ones to help you tailor that application. And then something very important on the applying front, what can you expect as an applicant? First off, once you apply, which is at our website, sperax.io/lifted, and we'll include that in a follow-up email. Upon applying, you can expect an email from us right away, just a confirmation email saying, you know what, you got your application, it's in. If it's before March 16th, what we'll do is we'll schedule a one-on-one to help tailor your application to ensure that you have the best odds of winning. And then after you get the one-on-one feedback and the application is in, you will hear within 7 days of the closing of applications whether or not you have been rewarded your grant. So you'll have 7 days between the closing and then the reward email notice. And then once you have been rewarded a grant, you will be, the next meeting, which will happen in the beginning of April, will be to sit with the partners. And what will happen is we will review your application, provide feedback, and then we'll set milestones. So we'll actually have 2 different milestones, which will happen 30 days after the milestone meeting where we set those milestones, and then 60 days after that meeting. So the total program will conclude at the end of Q2. And this is, not the whole lifted, but phase 1. So the mentorship will happen in April, May, and June of this year for the recipient of the first phase's capital. And then any additional meetings with a mentor, either Sperax if you need some technical guidance, or if you just are interested in getting some more support from other mentors, it would be up to you to schedule additional time with that mentor. And we would encourage all mentors to allocate at least 1 hour of their time with the recipient team, in addition to the required check-in meetings that we all have. So that's the update on phase 1. That's where we're standing. Real fast, generally, who should be applying is a great concept. One moment, Neela, let me just wrap this up. It'll take 30 seconds and then I'll get to it. So who should apply? This isn't a venture capital program. So we're not interested in providing growth capital for IP or a monetary gain on our end. We really want to provide the opportunity for women as well as women-led teams to break into the space and to get that foundational money in order to get their project off the ground. But in the event that you need operational capital to continue operations, phenomenal. But if it's more so of a growth relationship where you're seeking equity capital, this program probably would not be the best fit for that type of capital. Who should partner? So we do have partnership opportunities. If your company is interested in joining, we can have conversations around getting really hands-on and helping tailor the initiative or one of the future phases. Or if you wanted something more casual, we have great opportunities to volunteer. So if you want to be a mentor or if you want to participate in judging, all of those opportunities are available to you in either a personal or a business capacity. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. That I went over how mentors can get involved. And then really from a mentorship standpoint, we really have three high-level categories. First would be technical, and that would be for like blockchain design and architecture. The second one would be technical design, user interface, user experience, things like that. And then the third category would be business. So anything pertaining to community development, business strategy, go-to-market, finance, whatever it might be. Those are the three high-level categories that we're seeking for mentors. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I'm sure there are questions. Maybe we can start with you, Neela.
Thank you. So my question is actually, can we apply from Bangladesh?
Yes, absolutely. So great question. This is a global campaign. We're not restricting any geographic region. We actually really encourage international applicants because we want to encourage an interoperable financial system. And if we start building that in a closed source way or start excluding certain geographic regions, it really just goes directly against our mission at Sperax.
Yeah. Actually, we already received quite a few applications from the Southeast Asia region, and we already formed a media partnership with this upcoming conference called TAPS Conference. The theme is Women of the Future. One of the major section is how female leadership is reshaping the fintech landscape. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, you mentioned the first phase being for the gaming tokens, but you didn't mention what the next three phases are. Or
Yeah, great question. So the second phase, we have a partner with Oasis. So it is fairly open-ended. What Oasis wants to see is a product built on their layer 1 blockchain. So the theme is economic design, but what we actually want to see is some architecture for a decentralized application, something a little bit more architecture focused, economic focused, and the inspiration there is there's actually going to be up to $50,000 of prizes given out. And the more product centric the application is, Oasis has actually said they'll give up to $45,000 for a product to be built on their blockchain. So that's number 2. It is token economics. And then number 3 is blockchain at university. So any continuing education, school, whether it be it could even be high school. So I kind of want to expand university to really any educational initiative. So that is the topic of 3. And then the 4th one is interoperability, where we really want to see the emphasis on bridging different activity on different chains. Because again, we don't want to say that all this development is going to happen on Sperax and live forever on Sperax. We really believe in an interoperable multi-chain future with various bridges and ways for the chains to talk with one another. And that's the emphasis of phase 4. And there's a PDF document that I'll be distributing to everyone after this that gives a rundown of that as well as volunteering opportunities for each phase.
I have another question.
Go for it, Nila.
Yeah, should should I? Okay, so in the first phase, do we need to develop the full product, or it will be the architecture and prototype?
So are you asking like, would the final expectation be that a product be delivered?
Yes, yes.
So this is how this would work. So not explicitly. If your application was, I want to launch a product on Ethereum, the final milestone would likely be deployed to mainnet. But that's not necessarily required. That would likely just be required in the event that your proposal stated that your objective was to launch an application. But say your objective is to curate educational content pertaining to gaming, then that final milestone might just be publish educational content by the end of Q2 2021. So
Okay.
it really is going to reflect the application. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And we're actually pretty open-ended, especially for this first one. We're really excited just to kick the campaign off and just kick off this ecosystem. So we're fairly open-ended on this first one.
Okay. Maybe I will send one of my team with all women engineer.
Absolutely.
That'll be fantastic.
Renita, do you have any questions?
I do. Is there a limit on the number of grants that you are planning to make during each quarter or each phase?
That's a great question. And we think a lot about that internally. And I wish I had a better answer, but we actually don't know yet. My vision for it is that we'll give out 3 $5,000 grants, but until we have all of the applications in, I can't particularly guarantee that we're going to do that way. We do want to have at least 2 recipients every round. So I am not too fond of the idea of allocating the capital just to one group. Ideally, we would have at least 2, and that is to encourage a cohort feeling as well. So you can actually have, partners and you can feel a part of a little family even inside of Lifted as well as the bigger pie. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay.
Unmute myself would help, wouldn't it? Andre, how are you? Good afternoon. Not sure where you're morning or afternoon. Do you have any questions at this point?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm well, thank you.
Wonderful. Do you have any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, a little faint, but we can.
Oh, I'm just taking notes. Thank you so much for having me. And this sounds awesome, and glad you're providing this resource to women around the world.
Thank you, Andre. Mara, do you have any questions?
At the moment, not. I think it's a great opportunity, and I think I need to do some research and go deeper about the requirements, and maybe I will apply. Yeah,
and maybe we can do a session on NFT, just to sort of, because we've had this conversation in the bigger pie literally just this week. NFT, as you say, is a hot topic at the moment, and we're all sort of a lot of us are looking to learn and be educated on it. So maybe we can, between the 2 of us, that we could pull in some speakers to talk about NFT. So if this is about bringing women into blockchain at an introductory level, why don't those conversations around the education of NFT, the best way to learn is to be able to put it into experience and practice. So that might spark some ideas of people who would like to be able to then take advantage of the grant to be able to put that into a learning experience.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. So we are going to do an educational session with our co-host. So I wish I had a date for that, but I don't yet. It's going to be happening in the coming weeks. And we would like to have that session before the applications close. So you can get a quick down and dirty rundown of what NFTs are, and then how they might play a role in your idea or your product or whatever it might be.
Wonderful. Elena, good afternoon. How are you doing? Do you have any questions at this stage?
Good afternoon. My apologies, I stuck on the previous meeting.
That's okay.
I was late, but I was glad to hear that your documents would be shared later on. Yes, I do have a question in terms of if project is based not in UK and other countries, would you consider it as well, or it should be somebody from UK?
We will consider it. Yep, this is a global program. There's no constraint on the geographic location.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Anne, do you have any questions for the panel?
Not at the moment.
Paul and Claire, what about yourself?
I think I need to do some more research, I think, but my initial thoughts are that from a bill-on perspective, because we would not specifically be focusing on NFTs and gaming, for example. So our main priority is to promote our license and payment platform development capabilities. And so I'm just not sure if what we're looking for in terms of potential grant or support in order to identify and really scrutinize the value proposition of what we're trying to achieve and to make those first steps from a marketing perspective. I'm not sure if we're in the right place currently, given kind of almost the criteria that we've spoken about today. I don't know if I've understood correctly, but I think perhaps our current priorities are perhaps a bit too broad for this particular grant opportunity.
Claire, with that being said, from what I'm hearing from you, the phase 2 of the grant might really be like a perfect fit, because Oasis, which is a layer 1 privacy preserving protocol, they're interested in seeing private payments on their platform. Okay. And with Sperax being a stablecoin provider, we could potentially create a really, synergistic relationship where we launch a payment platform on Oasis in a privacy preserving manner. So that can directly align with your regulatory research as well, because Oasis is prioritizing how can you create both private yet regulatory compliance transfers. And that might be something that's really exciting for phase 2. And they have a larger capital pool. So something to consider. And I'm happy to talk at a later date as well, Claire, if you.
Okay, yeah, no, that would be great. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Alec, I think it would be more beneficial for us as well, phase 2, because we have a project. We recently won a hackathon in terms of GovTech hackathon for the privacy of voting, but we also have privacy on its open source platform for the traceability of things and as well as payments.
Brilliant. I think that's a perfect candidate for phase 2.
So in terms of the next step with you to contact with Bridget, what we need to do, because I actually never heard about phase 2. It's the first time that I hearing about it.
I'll be following up with Bridget with a PDF outlining the opportunities for phase 1 and then as well as phase 2. So that should answer your questions initially. But then, as I mentioned to Anne, I welcome any additional follow-up conversations. And then we will be doing an educational session in a couple of weeks on NFTs. So if we don't talk before then, we can connect there as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
And we can repeat the same process for each quarter. So we can have an AMA, we can discuss it, we can have a technical session around the topic that it is, in case it produces inspiration that would be applicable for the grants, and we'll also be able to follow up with the questions that you've got. So that would be great. Sort of leaning into that side of things, if if somebody puts forward their application, especially if they haven't had a chance to come on a call like this where you're really honing down into what phase one is looking at, if they put an application for the grant for phase one, but it's more suitable for a later grant, how is that dealt with? Do they have to reapply, or is that maybe flagged and gone back to the person and said you might want to reapply for a different phase?
That's a great question. So we will provide the applicants feedback within 7 days. In that feedback, it'll give a reason as to why they received or why they did not receive the grant. So if they are a great candidate for phase 2, 3, or 4, we'll just explicitly tell them and say, you didn't receive it for this reason, but I'm fairly confident you might receive a grant in phase 2 if you were to reapply.
That makes sense. And then one of the questions that came up when we were sharing it across the various social platforms, what happens about IP when you're doing something like this and you've got the seeds of something that you think can potentially be really great? We all need help in being able to get these things started, but what protections are being offered to the people and the ideas that they're putting forward? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So like we mentioned before, we're not particularly interested in providing growth or equity capital. So that's oftentimes when that IP conversation comes into play. We can make those introductions to get you those capital partners, and then that's likely where that IP conversation would come into play. But Sperax would not anticipate owning any of this IP. And something to preface is we really, really encourage applicants to be leaning in on the open source ethos of blockchain. And the only implication of that is oftentimes it is quite difficult to protect open source IP. It's not like Sperax intends on using it, but we really want to push the interoperable nature of blockchain. We think it's important for it to deliver on the vision, I guess you could say, of a censorship-resistant financial system. So we will not own any of the IP, and we very much so encourage applicants to not think so much about capturing the IP, but more so about how can I create my product in such a way that it is open source and interoperable, and other projects can actually look at my code and leverage my system in theirs to help provide better experiences for their users.
And having said that, then I assume that will be part of the criteria as to whether or not your application will be chosen, because if it fits all of those things, then that's really in the sweet spot for what you're looking to develop.
Yeah, Frida, correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, if someone were to be proposing more of a closed source centralized approach, they would likely not be preferred over someone who is proposing an open source approach to the same problem.
Yeah, like Alex just mentioned, we do share this vibe in this, or just this norm in the blockchain space, that everything's open source, obviously, and the entire progress of, per se, the DeFi heat last summer was based on a lot of hard forks. So I think that is the key driver behind the blockchain space too, in order to advance. Yeah. And I did drop the email contacts of Alec and I in mine. Feel free to email us if you have any questions. Yeah, and also one last note is, if you have the resources, please try to engage your male coworkers, your male friends who participate in this grant as well. I do believe that some female empowerment grant series should not be a single facet movement. It shall be a social awareness that should be shared by both genders. Yeah, and that is why we're so fortunate to have Alec in this entire design.
So another thought that came to mind is talking about open source and the ethos behind how you like to build. I wonder if it'd be interesting as well to maybe have another event where we talk about how your DAO organization actually works. So there's one thing about talking about DAO in terms of the theory of it, but actually being able to talk to an organization and say, okay, how are you structured? What are the practicalities? What problems have you come across? You know, where do you see the benefits are? What issues still do you potentially come across? I think that would be really interesting and useful, because it's obviously it's not common practice. So if we can actually talk to a company that's building in that way, I think that would be very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we really take pride on making our products really usable, and some key components of that is dealing with the governance. And it's actually uniquely challenging to bring governance, decentralized governance to market, which we're experiencing firsthand. It's not impossible, obviously, but it's an uphill battle. So I think that we're kind of uniquely positioned to share our experiences. And we'll just be radically candid and transparent about our experiences. So we would love to do that. It'd be really fun. And then we can also give a little bit of a rundown as to like why we're choosing our hybrid stablecoin, how we're going to encourage censorship resistance, why those principles are fundamental if we want to create a international, globally accessible, censorship resistant financial system. Because that's really what Frida and I are here for.
Wonderful. Does anybody have any further questions, or are we happy with? I mean, I appreciate your time, Frida and Alec. It's really, I really appreciate both what you're building, what you're looking to achieve, how you're looking to achieve it, and offering your time to be able to let us learn more about the grant and ask questions. Do we have any other questions?
I may, yes. So if we already have open source coding on the GitHub, it's already finished, it's already ready product, and we have 8 different projects with ready products. So what would be the better way for us to approach, to apply in different phases simultaneously, or because, like I said, the product built in the way that it's simultaneously can be used on different blockchains. Initially, it's built on Ethereum, but it's already moved to Binance Chain, XDAX, and also we are planning to move to Polkadot in the next couple of weeks as well. So, like, I even don't know from where to begin with.
Yeah, great question. I appreciate you asking this. So my recommendation of what I would probably advise in a one-on-one meeting is that for the first, I would recommend you apply for phase 1. And how I would recommend you apply is due to the fact that you already have the technical components built out and they're on GitHub. You could apply for assistance bringing this product to market. So we can help with strategic relationships. We can provide you with support of how to curate an engaged community and help you with things like, you know, the business model. How do you actually extract value from this protocol in a legally compliant way that you're not going to get a letter from the SEC in 5 years?
We already registered with SEC.
Oh, so you've already dealt with that, you said?
Yes.
Wonderful. That's great news. Congratulations. So yeah, you could apply for business support in phase 1. And then I would recommend also applying for phase 2. And you can write a proposal where you would actually bring the solution to Oasis in a privacy preserving way. And then Oasis would be able to provide you with technical resources to get the privacy component of your product launched.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you very much.
Of course. Any other questions?
I didn't expect that I would hear so much today.
And I talk a lot too, so if I
overwhelmed
anyone,
it's really awesome. I had very low expectation from this call, and now it's just like opening like completely different opportunities.
Cool. Yeah, that's what we're hoping to be here, and we're extremely serious about this. And yeah, I'm happy to hear that you're excited to apply.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm sorry. Did I interrupt? I have a question about the format of the proposal. Do you want it to be in a certain form, like You know, the one that's tailored for a research grant or the one that's tailored for these business pitch decks. If there is a preferred format or certain sections that you absolutely need to have in the proposal, or any information you could provide.
Yeah, great question. So you can actually, yeah, thank you, Frida. The application form is right there. And that's also what is linked if you were to go to sperax.io/lifted. And there you'll see that it's, I think, 10 or 15 fields of information. And yeah, that's where you can find the application. And then just something that is worth noting, as specific as you can be pertaining to like use of funds will really help in building trust with us that, you know, the funds are going to be going toward what you want to build. Yeah.
And we're updating the headshots and bios and all of the partnership information on the webpage as well. Sure.
Amazing. I haven't had a look at the form. Does it cross more than one page? Or can they see everything that is being asked on the application form, then go offline, prepare it, and then come back on? Or is the form, the Google form, over more than one page?
They should be able to do it offline. It's just a Google form link. So you could actually even start an application, close it down, and then with that same email address, just pick up where you left off.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether or not, so the question was if you could see all of the questions, because sometimes you have a required field and you can't go to the next stage of the form until you started filling in. But if you wanted to see what all the questions were, get prepared and then put it online. Is that?
Great question. You will be able to see everything. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you ever so much. I am delighted. Hopefully it's been really useful. I know that obviously Lena has found
before you close. I'm actually in the application and I was in the process of working on it until you just said the use of funds part. I don't see where you add that. So should I just put that inside of the question titled your project overview proposal? Because it doesn't explicitly ask for that anywhere. So should I just put that in one of the other questions like project, your proposed project?
Yes, please do.
It says upload a PDF.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that to our attention. I think that we should add that for you. We can add that to the application.
Yeah, and I'm also in the form, and I didn't see here is the 4 category like what you have mentioned. So I didn't see that is in the form. So I think
Oh, that's on the website. The 4 categories and like the information underneath. All of those are on the website with dates next to them.
I think what Nila meant is that if she can just select different phase in order to submit her application in case she would like to.
There is a category and another one is economic something, another one is education. So I am talking about that. So we are in this session, so we know a bit about the categories, but those who are not in this meeting, so they don't know. So how do you get the full information what you have shared here?
Yeah, that is great advice. Anything else?
I think no for now. And oh yes, and I have another questions actually. So we are developing some project for the community building. So like women in technology and bringing more women in tech and make them financially empowered through technology. And so for this we need to do so many things. So this type of project should we submit, or all are really technical project we should submit?
Is that a question?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of missed that. Would you mind repeating it a little bit?
So the question is so there we are doing something like women in tech, and we have a project. Our main mode is women empowerment through technology, and we are working for their financial empowerment through internet. So it's a project itself, a project. So this is something learn from technology and earn from technology. So should we submit this type of project?
I would recommend probably scheduling a time to talk with us again. You can schedule time to talk with Frida and I. We can help you either tailor it to make it work for the first phase, but if it doesn't make sense for the first phase, you would have to wait until the second phase applications open up.
Okay.
Which I think is April 10th is when you can begin applying for phase 2.
Okay. So it will be better if you give us the category and what we have discussed here, a bit write up, then we will decide where actually we are fit for which project actually, which phase.
Yeah, will do.
Thank you.
I just had a question. In addition to all the, obviously the grant is extremely useful. You mentioned something about, obviously there's mentoring, but also helping to promote the idea once it's kind of launched, or, you know, in terms of helping get the message out.
Yeah, so that will be media partnership, and it's totally requires zero capital input. The whole purpose is just help us spread the word and help us to reach as many applicants as possible, because we cannot actually address this gender divide until we actually encourage people to do something real. So that is totally appreciated if you are interested.
And an additional thing, so Wendy, were you also potentially considering like what type of marketing support could we offer the grant recipient upon?
Yes, I was both. So, you know, sometimes it's useful to advertise that you're part of a program, especially as you're a startup saying you've been accepted into this, and also having got something that you want to try and launch is to help on that marketing side as well, or with suggestions, or like you say, helping to open doors, as they say.
Absolutely. So that's really where we view a significant value add that we can bring with our co-partners. So for example, if you have an idea around gaming right now and you were to be a recipient of the Lift It grant, not only would you have Sperax being a well-funded layer 1 supporting you publicly, but also you'll have a venture capital firm that is directly competing in this space with connections to some of the best founders and capital partners in that industry. They'll be publicly supporting you as well. And then if it were for phase 2, Oasis would be advertising your startup as like, hey, check out this new amazing product that was launched on Oasis. And they're incentivized to do that because they get to brag about cool new projects on their blockchain.
Great, thank you.
Any last questions? I just took a pause there to just give you opportunity, because we snuck a few ones in at the end. That's fantastic. All right, then we are coming up to the hour. I really appreciate everyone for your time to join us, for sharing your information and for asking the questions. We will I'll get together with Frida and Alec to make sure that we follow up as we have promised to do so. And thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.